What is up, IDP Army? It is your man Jordan Rains at 50 Shades of Drunk. If you want to follow me on Twitter, and got a good show for y'all today. We're going to be going over a 2023 real draft for IDP only Dynasty. All right, it's an IDP Dynasty startup real draft. And then I'm going to do a follow-up video that's going to do the rookie draft for that Dynasty League also. So be sure to subscribe to the podcast if you have not done that. Leave a comment below. We would love to hear from you. Be sure to hop in our Discord as well. A lot of really cool stuff going on over there. So yeah, like I said, we are going to just go over today, and I'm going to review some teams that that were in this draft too. So I was in essentially how it went down is I'm in an IDP only Dynasty draft, Dynasty League with a couple of guys on Twitter, IDP experts, what have you. And we have a league that we've been in for a couple of years, and we decided to make a secondary league very similar to that one. Got invited to that one. So we did the startup for that. Just started it 2 weeks ago. So there's a lot of, you may see some names if you're watching on YouTube that you recognize. And it was a really fun draft. I honestly really think that my team turned out really good. I'm interested to share it here with everyone. But before we do that, I want to just, touch on a couple of things. Like I said before, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Be sure to subscribe to both of our podcast feeds as well. If you want to check out our rankings, you can join the channel, become a member, or join the Patreon. Patreon.com/IDP Army. You can get access to our IDP, our Dynasty, and our best ball rankings. And if you don't want to do that to support us, like I said, you can just throw us a thumbs up, or you can just like this video. We would love that. All right, well, let's just go ahead and talk about the scoring system. Number one, you're always going to want to know your scoring system in any Dynasty league, especially a Dynasty league where your rookie, and your startup draft are where you really get to make some decisions on how you are going to attack the draft and what kind of team you want to put together. So before the draft started, I went and looked at scoring, and it's pretty good IDP scoring all around, I would say. It's not IDP 1, 2, 3, but it's similar. I'll just go ahead and tell you all here what it is. The touchdowns are 6 points. Sacks are 2 points in this league. Quarterback hits are 1. Tackles for loss are 2. The only real big difference is interceptions are 5. Sacks are 4. And then tackles are 0.75 for an assist, 1.5 for a solo. Pass deflections are 3, like IDP 1, 2, 3. Tackles for loss are 2, like IDP 1, 2, 3. And quarterback hits are also 1 point, like IDP 1, 2, 3. So similar, but some of the disruptive plays are a little different. They also have forced fumbles at 4 and fumble recoveries at 4, which is a 1 point increase to IDP 1, 2, 3. So overall similar, but because there was a little bit of a little cut to the IDP scoring to sacks, making them 4 instead of 6, which I like 6 as a turnover. I went ahead and opted to, in this draft, kind of punt defensive line. And it's something I've been kind of telling people to do for a while in IDP, especially in Dynasty startups, because you can get high quality defensive line players later. And I think when you look at the team I was able to put together here, hopefully you'll see some players that you like, that we got at some values. So yeah, I just wanted to set the table with that. The way the league is set up that's the scoring. The blocked kicks and the blocked punts and those things are only 2 point plays, and safeties are also 2 point plays. In IDP 1, 2, 3 scoring, those are 3 point plays. So again, similar, but not quite IDP 1, 2, 3. But for all intents and purposes, it's pretty closely mirrors IDP 1, 2, 3 scoring. And then the way we set the league up is it has 3 defensive line players. Then there'll be 3 linebackers. And then I believe it is 3 defensive backs. Let me double check real fast. Yep, 3 defensive backs. So 9 positional players you have start, and then 2 flex. So 11 starters overall. So bearing all that in mind, now, like I said, thanks for being here. We're going to take a look at the team I was able to put together. All right, so let's go ahead here and see if we can pull this team up. That is not the format I want. This is the format I want. All right, so this is the team I was able to get. Again, I took the approach of a 0 defensive line or a late round defensive line player. A lot of people will tell you to reach for Max Crosby or reach for Nick Bosa, and I think there are specific builds and specific places on the draft board where that can be an optimal strategy. But generally speaking, you're going to want to build around linebackers, especially because so many people are going to focus on defensive line players, because that's when you think of IDP, when you think of defense, you always think of those big splash play guys. So you have to be aware of that and then sort of adjust. So let's take a look at the team I was able to put together here. And again, this was taking with an approach where I didn't take a defensive line player until I think around 6 or 7. So I was able to get Alex Highsmith, Cam Hayward, and Zadarius Smith as my 3 defensive line starters on this Dynasty startup team. I really like that. Skews a little older with Hayward being 33 and then Zadarius being close to 30. But Alex Highsmith coming off an incredible season. He was the first defensive line player that I took in this draft. I was happy to get him. And, from in this draft, I was drafting from the 102 spot. I follow, and then the rest of my team for starters, I have Roquan Smith as my linebacker 1, Jordan Brooks as my linebacker 2. I was able to get Shaquille Leonard as my linebacker 3. This is, it just shows the recency bias is such a heavy thing in fantasy football. I'm not even a huge Shaquille Leonard guy, but to get him as my linebacker 3, in a startup, that's... this was a league that has a lot of people that are experts and people that know a lot about IDP. So even people who should, in my opinion, probably know better, allowed me to get a linebacker 3 who has linebacker 1 overall in his resume already. I don't know if anybody was watching Good Morning Football today, but Logan Ryan was on this morning. He says he's been practicing 5 days a week in Tampa with Shaq Leonard. Guy's up at 5 o'clock in the morning at the gym every day. He said he's fine. So that's not a doctor. That's not any, that's Good Morning Football conjecture from a guy who works out with Shaq Leonard. But if he's a football player saying he looks like he's good, I'm going to take that as a positive sign. So I love being able to get him as my linebacker 3. We'll dive into that. And this team, honestly, is kind of almost a meme because Derwin James, my defensive back 1, got him in the 3rd round. Felt like that was kind of wild for me to get Budda Baker and then Jamal Adams. These guys 2-3 years ago, and I did get a little clowned on a little on Twitter. Oh, our team would kill, 3 years ago. These guys still play in the NFL. You know what I mean? They haven't been on the field consistently, no. But when they're on the field, we know who they are. And it's not like they're 30, 35. So was happy to get Jamal Adams coming off the injury here. Budda Baker, the uncertainty allowed me to get him as my DB2. And then, again, Derwin James dropped to the 3rd round inexplicably. Not sure what to make of that. Then I followed up with my first flex was Quincy Williams, Divine Diablo, Dante Fowler, and then the bench here I have Deontay Fowler, Emmanuel Ogbah, Charles Omenihu, Derek Brown, Ottawa. I can't pronounce his name. I'm sorry. Oh, no. What just happened? Adafe Owe. He got drafted to my team. All right, maybe I'll change the screen. I drafted Adafe Owe pretty low. I believe I got him, what round was that? 11th round here. That's a great value for a defensive line player. And again, with that strategy, you want to look for either older players that could still perform, aka Cam Hayward, or younger players who haven't yet broken out, the post-type sleeper type. And that's where Adafe Owe comes in. Let me see if I can pull this back up because I want to finish reading off my actual bench before we jump over to the draft board. But you can see here, Derek Brown, with the 0 defensive line strategy, taking a lot of shots here. Emmanuel Ogbah, Charles Omenihu, Derek Brown, Adafe Owe, Dayo Odenigbo. All those guys are kind of shots at the defensive line position, but I believe they have some upside, and they were dirt cheap to acquire. And they're bench players right now, so we'll see how that goes. Followed up, got Jalen Smith, Anthony Walker, Leighton Vander Esch, and then Terrell Dotson. So that's how my team looks right now in this 10-team startup IDP only. So let's take a look at how the actual draft went down quickly. Okay, so I'm going to pull up. So I drafted from the 2 spot, and I'm getting mine out of the way so we can start talking about the other guys' teams a little bit. I just wanted to let you guys know kind of how I decided to attack this. So I went from the 102. Like I said, I favored the linebackers, but Derwin James in the 3rd round was just too good to pass up. So obviously I ended up with him there. And then I took Alex Highsmith in the 4th round. So it was a little higher than I actually thought for a 0 defensive line or a late round defensive line player. But, still pretty late overall. This isn't a combined draft. This is a IDP only draft. So every other person in the league had already acquired a defensive line player of some type by this point, for the most part. The guy right after me looks like he had not quite jumped there yet. Oh yeah, he did. Well, we'll jump over there in a minute. Anyway, let's see what kind of values we got. So I really thought Cam Hayward at 17 was a super value. Yeah, he's older, but again, this is a team that's going to be able to compete year one in Dynasty, which I believe in playing every year to win. There's no reason to do the whole, productive struggle nonsense. Like all the productive struggle teams in my leagues from all these years back are still just struggling. You know what I'm saying? So, pouring out for your homies that are leaving the leagues and don't like Dynasty anymore. And then you can see here, I just took shots here straight down these few picks. Deo, one of my favorite sleeper candidates for this year, defensive line. Dante Fowler, plug and play. Not probably going to get a lot of tackles on the season, but he could have a sack across from Micah Parsons. Sneakily, pretty good season last year. So I like getting him there. And then Emmanuel Ogbah offers a lot in the auxiliary stuff, the pass deflections. I always talk about that. He's not just a sack tackle guy, but he does actually offer some forced fumble and some, disruptive plays by design. So that's my team. Let's go ahead. And I think, honestly, I'm just going to give my team a grade. I think it's A+. I think I have great players. I think I got my great values. I think people overthink things a lot. I think people big brain things too much. And I think we're going to see that with some of these other teams. So let's go ahead and take a look at team number 1 from the 101 spot. That was my man, Esteemed Outlaw. Not a bad draft here. Again, this is all my opinion. If any of these guys, feel like I'm attacking them, or if anything weird happens, just know that this isn't personal. This is just me giving my honest opinion. Micah Parsons, first round. Devin Lloyd. Devin Lloyd as your linebacker 1 is definitely some scary stuff. Doesn't take another linebacker till round 5. Then Nakobe Dean. And then another one in 6 with Anderson. That's really sketchy. Like, you really need those guys to ascend and then hold that spot down to be valuable in Dynasty, to be worthy of taking this high. I think that's a little bit wild to take them there. Even Brian Osamoa, who he took here in the 9th round, was his next actual linebacker. I'm in another league where I was actually, because his name has come up. I was in another league and he got dropped, in one of my IDP Dynasty leagues recently. So to use a single-digit pick here on him, that's, do what you want to do, go crazy, but I don't love that. George Karlaftis, I love that at the 8th spot, though. Dax Hill, I like that. This team really is skewing very young, if you just kind of look at it, which is fine. Chad Muma, Jordan Phillips. I'm just going to be real, though. I don't think this team is going to win many games this year. I don't think it'll win many games over the course of this Dynasty League. Unless all these guys kind of hit in a big way. Yeah, it's going to be tough, I think, for this team to make the playoffs. So I'm just being real. I think so. Let's go ahead and go to the team that went right after me. First defensive line player, Nick Bosa. Understand why you would want to do that. Again, with the sacks being nerfed just a little bit with 4 points versus 6, I think that there's probably better options on the board here overall. And there is injury risk with defensive line players, especially ones that have an injury history. So it is brave, and I understand it, though. You want to get Nick Bosa on your team. Minkah Fitzpatrick went next for this guy. My man Pax 23, which was wild to me only because Buda Baker is still on the board and Derwin James is still on the board at this point. Known high-level IDP defensive back producers. And, I love Minkah as much as the next guy, probably more and probably longer, especially for IDP. But just from a practicality standpoint, to take him in the 2nd round, you're just passing on players who are objectively more likely to be better this season. So all that being said, he comes back around, gets Tremaine Edmonds and Zaire Franklin. I like those picks. Nothing overly exciting, really, but that's a decent start to your linebacking core. Not going to be mad at it. Josh Sweat here in the 5th round. Honestly, just a waste of a pick. I think what's Josh Sweat ever really done, except for make some people at PFF excited about some stuff. Matt Judon, great pick here, but again, the 6th round, you want to get a guy that's kind of this old to kind of be a core player for your team this early. Kevin Byard comes in next, another older fella. And I'm not like knocking older guys, you know what I mean? But you have to think about in Dynasty, you're building a team for now and for later. When am I going to be able to get players for now that might not be on my team later? What does that mean? Like older players. You don't want to take an older player early. You know what I mean? That just doesn't make as much sense. So I think that strategy kind of hurt him here, going with some of these older fellas here. Does get Quinnen Williams in the 8th. I like that pick. Jerome Baker, not going to do much for you as your linebacker 3. Unfortunately, yeah, this team just, if I'm just being completely honest, is in pretty rough shape. Yeah, I'm not too worried about old Pax here. Let's take a look at old Joey the Tooth's team. Good God Almighty, this should be a blast. All right, what we got here? We got Nick Bolton in the 1st round. That's a good pick. Bobby Okereke in the 2nd. That's a little wild to me. I mean, I understand that he doesn't have a lot in front of him, for the New York Giants. But as your linebacker, too, given some of the players that are still on the board, that's a lot of capital. Again, that's pick 17 in an IDP Dynasty League for a guy who was a sleeper, 2 years ago. Even last year coming into the year, a sleeper for some people. So for him to go from a sleeper to switch teams and then be taken at 17, that's a little rich for me. Son Reddick, good pick there. I like that in the 3rd round. Josh Allen in the 4th. Don't really love that. Josh Allen he's been underwhelming in my opinion. Ernest Jones, again, that's a guy who I think is a sleeper / breakout. So to put him on your team here this early seems a little bit, just to, again, for contrast, in this same round, I took Budda Baker, you know what I mean? And that's not to knock Ernest Jones, but it's just like, you have to think about what's happening around you. Daniil Hunter goes next, 3rd defensive line player here for Joey. So in the first 6 rounds, he's taken 3 defensive line players to build his dynasty around. Not something I would ever advocate for personally. Jesse Bates comes in at 7. Harold Landry, a good pick there with Landry. But I don't know why you would really want to put that kind of player on your team after you've just stacked your defensive line with all these other guys in still single-digit rounds. But to each their own. Jesse Bates, good pick. New team. Definitely fell down the draft board because of that recently. So I like that value there. Josie Jewell, Jamin Davis. They're not doing much for anybody, really, I don't think. Eric Kendricks, good pick. Christian Wilkins in this league, which is very tackle heavy. And again, why I deprioritize defensive line players. A guy like Christian Wilkins, who has a history of getting up there at defensive line position with a lot of tackles, that's a good pick. And that's kind of the thesis behind, Cameron Hayward, my pick over there on defensive line. Grant Delpit, Baron Browning, Rashawn Jenkins, Eddie Jackson, Daryl Taylor, Daryl Taylor, Jordan Poyer at the 18th round, Khalil Mack. Like, he got Khalil Mack, y'all, here in the 19th round. If you're looking for an upside shot at defensive line, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's a good pick. And then Marcus Epps, and then Amani Hooker. So I think overall this team, like, fundamentally, it's got the right names on it in some of the right spots, but I'm a little worried about the depth. You know what I'm saying? Like Jamin Davis, I wonder if he'll ever even crack your lineup this season. Same with Josie Jewell. And to take those guys in 9-10 at the most pivotal spot, a little worrisome in my opinion, but to each their own. All right, this is the next spot, 105. This is Hot Seat Mags. This looks like a nice little team here. Looks like we went Max Crosby, number 1, Patrick Queen. And Max Crosby, if you are going to take defensive line in this league, number 1 overall or early, Max Crosby is the guy you want because he is the tackle guy as far as defensive line goes. Like, he and Sam Hubbard, especially this last year, though, Max Crosby's tackles went up in a big way. So I like that. If you are going to take one in the first round, Max Crosby is probably the one that you're going to want to skew towards, again, in my humble opinion. Patrick Queen taken in the second round, Isaiah Simmons third, and Joey Bosa in the fourth. Love that he got Joey Bosa here in the fourth round. You know what I mean? Like, again, Nick Bosa went 3 overall. I mean, 30, what is this? 10, 20, 30, almost 35 picks later. That's where Joey Bosa goes. Not long ago, he would have been a lot higher. So that's good value there for for Hot Seat Mags here, this team, which was drafting from the 105 spot. Takes his first defensive back player with the Chiefs defensive back, L'Jarius Sneed. Then he comes back around, takes Chris Jones, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. At 5, 6, and 7 there, I wouldn't be excited to rely on those guys necessarily week in and week out, especially with the up and down nature of Chris Jones's career. To have him really kind of be anchoring things there. Well, he's really not, though. I guess Max Crosby's your anchor. So I'm okay with him as an upside play, I guess. Frankie Louvu in the 8th round. I'm always hesitant to really, really invest capital in guys who are like week 1 and week 2 waiver wire stars. You know what I mean? Those guys can't breakout stars where, they have a great season. And if I'm in that season, that's awesome. But I'm not going to count on that to be continued, extended, meaningful, consistent production. So I'm a little worried about Frankie Louvu there. Bobby Wagner, good pick. Willie Gay, good pick. Then Aaron Donald here at 11. I'm just gonna say it. What was it? A year ago this time, people were arguing that he was like the best player in the whole NFL. And he's only like 30, 31. How you fall off this much in IDP fantasy football? You know what I'm saying? I think people had him as like defensive line. Well, not me, but I know a lot of people had him very high in their defensive line rankings in Dynasty and Redraft last season, as they do every year. You got to see things coming if you really want to help people. If you want to look back and say, oh, now he's not good anymore, that's not very helpful. So is he good or not, y'all? Is he a value at this point? To get Aaron Donald here this time last year would have been heresy. But here you are. I think he's fallen too far down the board. Probably closer to where he actually needs to be, though, in reality. And looks like a nice group of guys to be with. Von Miller, DeForest Buckner. DeForest Buckner should be ahead of him probably, just because we haven't heard so much talk of retirement from him. Marlon Humphrey, another defensive back. He went pretty heavy with the cornerbacks. L'Jarius Sneed, Chauncey Gardner, corner/safety, and then Humphrey here, corner. Tyrann Mathieu, another one of these versatile guys. So I really like the way he kind of built this team as far as the players. He's going to have a lot of action to see on Sunday. It's a lot of fun teams. Shaq Barrett, Alex Anzalone, I actually saw him got cut in the league recently. They took a shot on Rashaan Evans, who's currently unsigned, in the 18th round. Marshawn Lattimore, Darius Slay, and then Justin Houston. Overall, this team, in my opinion, it's for Dynasty, it's going to be rough to kind of last maybe, but I think this year, I think he's got some good players on this team that could potentially make a difference. So keep an eye on old Hot Seat Mags here as a sleeper in the league, y'all. Maybe not a sleeper. Maybe he thinks maybe he'll get mad if I say that. All right, we got my man Cali King, 49er. Mace Riney in the building representing the IDP Army. And, I'm going to try not to shower him with too many, compliments, but his team is pretty dang good. I was like looking at the teams. It's like, man, some of these teams are not very good. And I was like down at the bottom. I was like, ooh, this team looks good. And I'm scrolling up. I'm like, ooh. I'm like, oh, Mace. I was like, I bet. I should have known. He's probably drafting straight out the index. All right. So we got TJ Watt, the 106. Love that. Still in his 20s, I think 28. So it's not like he's anywhere near as old as some of these other older defensive line players that are being pushed down the board. Quay Walker, hoping for that breakout with his linebacker 1 there. A little risky, bit of a move, but I do have him pretty high in the index. I won't lie. It's just a lot of faith. Logan Wilson, like him, I really wish that he could kind of break through to that next tier of linebacker. I'm scared he's going to end up with a career more closely resembling Fred Warner than I ever want to admit ever again. So let's just not even talk about it. Jaquan Brisker as his defensive back number 1 in the 4th round. Love that. Great centerpiece. Then he went Hendrickson, Mosley, Montez Sweat, Jordan Hicks. That's a great group of guys to get right there. Some veterans in Mosley and Hicks at linebacker who have been putting up big numbers the last few seasons. And then he gets some guys who are kind of falling off the radar after down seasons, but still with a lot of juice left in them, in Eric Hendricks, or not Eric Hendricks, Trey Hendrickson and Montez Sweat. Donovan Wilson, he falls up with there. I don't love it, don't hate it. Javon Hargraves in the 10th round. I don't love it, don't hate it. That's kind of where I'm at with that one. Shaq Thompson, Al Sha'ir, I like those because those guys are, again, kind of flying under the radar. You know, could be high-level producers kind of out of nowhere and consistently. You know, and on franchises where people really don't want to look right now for a lot of action. Carolina, I mean, it's about what's new in Carolina. Shaq Thompson ain't new in Carolina, so he's not gonna get a lot of attention. And then we're all just kind of waiting for the Titans to unravel at the seams, if we're being honest. So nobody probably even remembers Al Sha'ir isn't with the Niners anymore, and he's there. So all that being said, nice sneaky picks there by my man. And those are 11th and 12th round linebackers. You know what I mean? So it's not like he overpaid for these guys like some other people did for some less sure thing, more risky linebackers. Then he goes Richie Grant, buying that dip on that second-year defensive back that didn't really break out. Not Jordan Love. Is that Jordan Love? No, it's Love. Why can't I think of his name? Julian Love. I guess that third defensive back for the Seahawks, who's going to go back there and play with Jamal Adams and Quandre Diggs, should be potentially very, very valuable given the relative fragility that is the career of Jamal Adams as of late. And then we'll just have to see what's up with Quandre Diggs. I know he's on and off the field. They've been really great together. I like Julian Love being, added to the group, but don't sleep on him overall. Like I said, my man here, he got him pretty late. And he could end up being somebody that plays a lot more snaps than we even now optimistically might anticipate. Juwan Bentley in the 15th round. I think that's kind of a waste of a pick by my man Mace, but it's all good. Do you, my guy. Then he goes and gets Sanders, who M. Sanders was, oh gosh darn it, I knew that was going to happen. Sorry, guys. Every time I click on their names, it like shoots us off of this page. That's my bad. Give me 1 sec. See if I can get the board pulled back up. Doot, doot. There we go. All right, where were we? Man, we still got a couple more teams to go over. Whew. All right, pull that down. There we go. We're back. Like I said, I'm not a big fan of Juwan Bentley. I think that was just more of a, that he's going to play some games and you could probably throw him in your flex if you have to. And that's basically what he's been his entire career for a while now. Then Sanders, M. Sanders, for whatever reason, I don't know what that guy's first name is. I can't think of it. Have no real opinion. Hopefully it works out for you, Mace. Spillane and Von Bell here. I really like Von Bell. That's such a good get in Dynasty this late. I mean, the 17th round, he got Von Bell, a guy who's put up like 100+ tackles each of the last like 4 or 5 years. Plenty of impact plays. He's been one of my top safeties for a while in IDP, and he goes to a spot that needs somebody who's going to be kind of that enforcer, that midfield enforcer, that veteran presence. We were talking a little earlier about somebody like Logan Ryan. I brought him up. That's kind of in the same mold as a Von Bell at this point. You know what I mean? So don't sleep on Von Bell. I really think that's a good get for Mace here. Then he gets to Mario Davis, man of God. And then he goes and gets Tracy Walker late, and then Oren Burks. Tracy Walker, probably the best value there of that group. So I love that get for him. All right, next, coming in from the 1-7 spot, we had Master IDP, the number 1 IDP ranker for the season of 2023. He's in here with us to school us all. So let's see how he did. So we went with, from the 107 spot, he started out with Myles Garrett. So he goes the more traditional, classic sort of IDP dogma of get your defensive line player early and build around him. Then he comes back and he gets Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw. And I'm really not sure that's the, I know that's not the linebacker core I would want to build my dynasty around personally, but you know what? Do you, my guy? gets Rashawn Gary and then Pete Werner. I like Pete Werner and then Cole Holcomb here. So he does shore them up. But I really don't feel like with that group of 4 linebackers I just mentioned, there's anybody that is really going to be pushing into that top 10 range. Fred Warner might sniff top 15, probably won't get there. Cole Holcomb's probably your most likely candidate, in my opinion, or Pete Werner. He had a nice little season going last year, but we'll see. Goes with Cam Curl next, and then Kyle Duggar. Like that for a starting defensive back group. Not necessarily a group I would think are gonna. I like it for this year. I don't know how long Cam Curl's career is really going to be. It's kind of been up and down. Duggar obviously has gained a level of respect and I don't know what the right word is with the Patriots, but they use him a lot in a lot of different ways, but they use him a lot is the best way to say it. So he's not really like a true, I don't know what the right way to even say this is. He is kind of turning into what we hoped he would be. That's the best way to say it. Finally, took a couple of years. He was kind of on and off the field, but it seems like now they've really put him out there to be a playmaker on defense. Next, we went with Devondre Campbell. I think that was a really great get at 9.7. Gregory Rousseau, David Long at 11.7. Currently not on a team, I don't think, or maybe he's on Miami, if I'm not mistaken. Then Xavier McKinney, Jonathan Allen, Josh Uche, Levante David, a little bit of an older group there with Allen and David, and then Lawrence, DeMarcus Lawrence. I don't know. If I'm being honest, I feel like my man, my Master IDP here might be in for a little bit of a world of hurt. We'll have to see how the season goes. Obviously, it's all love, but this isn't a team that I'm, would be over much scared to play in the season. Of course, Washington will probably whip me every time I play it now for the rest of forever. But you know how it goes in fantasy. But I like Harrison Smith as a get here very, very late. Brandon Jones, rounding out that defensive back group. As these guys coming as your bench guys, you're really probably going to start them week 1, this whole season. So to get them this late is a really good get, in my opinion. Like, I would much rather start Harrison Smith than Cam Curl. You know what I mean? Pretty much every week until Harrison Smith's not in the NFL for IDP purposes. Especially with, what's his name? Flores going to the Vikings. I'm expecting a little bit of a pop in impact play production this season relative to last season from my man Harrison Smith. So just want to go ahead and throw that out there into the ether. All right. Let's go ahead and jump to we have 3 teams left, everybody. Let's go ahead and jump to the 1-8 spot. Foyesade Olukun, Brian Burns, Jordan Phillips, Javon Holland, Matt Milano, Jalen Thompson is the first 6 rounds. So we had 2 linebackers. We had 1 linebacker. We had 2 defensive line players. Jalen Phillips is technically a defensive line player, even though he's marked linebacker here. Then we had Matt Milano. So 2 traditional linebackers, 2 defensive line players, and 2 defensive backs essentially go here in the first 6 rounds. I like the balance there. Good group of guys. I like Olukun, underrated many years now. Definitely a top end linebacker for IDP Dynasty. Brian Burns, getting him in the 2nd round when a lot of people are reaching. I don't want to say reaching is the wrong word, but when Myles Garrett goes in the 1st, or Aiden Hutchinson goes in the 1st, relatively speaking, getting Brian Burns in the 2nd of startup is going to feel pretty good. Jalen Phillips in the 3rd, Javon Holland, like I said, in the 3rd, Javon Holland, and then Jalen Thompson at 6. So 4.3 and 6.3 for your defensive back 1 and 2. Really good gets there. Young player on the Holland side, young-ish player on Jalen Thompson's side. We've seen him produce and kind of earn his way onto the field. So if Buda Baker does eventually move on, which, we're still not sure what's going to happen there, he could be the guy who kind of slides right into that role. And even if that doesn't happen and we can't just apply that narrative, which would be really fun and easy to do, he's been perfectly fine for IDP the last few seasons. So to get him as your DB2 in the 6th round, like that. Continuing down this guy's draft, who is Toto Nightingale, or Toto Din, I don't know what his name is. Toto Dinatale. I don't know. Y'all know I'm dyslexic. We had Kazir White in the 7th round, Kirby Joseph, 8th round, Justin Simmons 9th, Sam Hubbard, Dexter Lawrence, Alex Singleton, Joe Tyrone Shoyinko, and then Marcus Williams in the 14th and Michael Walker in the 15th. Of that grouping of players, there's a couple I don't really like. I think Kazir White was kind of not a great pick there, especially in the 7th round. It's just a lot to pay for Kazir White at this point in ever. Kirby Joseph, I don't really know where he's going to fit in with Tracy Walker, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, and Brian Branch. He'll be the backup, I assume, to somebody. Not to say he couldn't still get on the field, meaningful snaps, given those 3 guys, people get nicked up, whatever, it may happen. So, but still, that's a hefty price to pay for a guy who's a backup, at the 8th round. Justin Simmons in the 9th round, don't love it, don't hate it. He's kind of who exactly he is. Sam Hubbard in the 10th round. Again, this is just more, 0 or late round DL fodder here. 10th round Sam Hubbard, a guy who is a perennial, top 15, top 24 guy, not necessarily having big boom weeks, but he's been so consistent since being drafted by the Bengals for IDP. Very high tackle numbers, stays healthy. And when he does pop, doesn't happen a lot, but when he pops, it feels good. So love that in the 10th round here. Dexter Lawrence, Alex Singleton. There's nothing really to talk about that little group of guys. Honestly, several of these guys, I think he'll end up dropping pretty quick. Michael Walker, he got some upside there. Deshaun Elliott, I like with the Miami group now. No longer part of the Detroit defensive back group, but another data point we can look at to say there's been a lot of success there for defensive backs. And then he went ahead and took Justin Reed, Jordan Whitehead, and then Xavier Woods. Veterans, not any really flashy names. And again, just reading those names off just really kind of solidifies my question mark with Kirby Joseph here. Like, why would you take Kirby Joseph? You could have taken Jordan Hicks. Could have taken Jamal Adams. You know what I mean? Well, no, not Jamal Adams. Yeah, you could have. Quincy, there's just so many players you could have taken that aren't Kirby Joseph. So, good luck, brother. 2 more teams left. This has gone on a little longer than maybe I thought it would. Or maybe not. I don't know. But from the 9th spot, Aiden Hutchinson was our first pick by Dent's Playbook. Then he went Kayvon Thibodeau. So he's doubling down on that second-year defensive line player. And he's going, young and defensive line early. Again, not something I would do or tell people to do, but we'll see how it goes for him. Then Talanoa Hufanga in the 3rd, Trayvon Walker in the 4th. So now he has 3 defensive line players, 3 second-year defensive line players in your first 4 picks. Yeah, it's not great. Not great, Bob. Interesting. Jack Sanborn at 5.9. Drew Tranquil comes in right after him. Jack Sanborn may not see many snaps this season. Drew Tranquil is a great get there for him, though, at 6'2". Fundamentally speaking, this team I don't think is really... I think they're going to struggle quite a bit. Tariq Woolen, not bad, cornerback, gets a lot of tackles, though, gets thrown out a lot, and he can make a big play. Uchia Nwosu and the single-digit rounds is no bueno, friend. Cody Barton in the 9th round, that's no bueno. Jay Houston, and that's not Justin Houston, that's another Houston. That's a no bueno pick in the 10th. Trayvon Diggs in the 11th, I don't hate that. I think that might, that's not a bad pick. J.C. Horn, coming off the injury, we'll have to see. I don't really know how the team is feeling about him. I don't know if anybody's seen the reports. Anybody's seen any comments on that? I know he was doing better, but again, I don't really know with all the turmoil and everything if we've really had a good check-in with J.C. Horn. That might be something to put a pin in and come back to. Derek Stingley Jr., A.J. Terrell, Nicholas Morrow, Jordan Davis, Ed Oliver, Christian Barrymore, Jonathan Greenard, Zach Allen, and R. Thomas. I'm going to be completely real with you. That team is toast. That team is toasted. So let's go ahead and go on to my man Dynasty Guru. He's the one who's running the league, put it all together at the back of the first round here, and this is the last team of the recap here. We got Devin White, great pick there at the back of the first. He goes Jalen Petrie, number 2, coming off an insane 140 tackles from a rookie defensive back, safety. No, who cares? I don't care. That's 140 tackles. That's big for a rookie. That's big. Okay. Chase Young in the third. I think that's where his first trip up kind of happens. And he gets TJ Edwards like that for this season, but longevity wise, he's in these linebackers where I'm a little worried about how long you're gonna be able to trust him. So in a dynasty to take him this early is a little bit worrisome for me for him. Follows it up with a great pick though. Antoine Winfield, one of my favorite defensive backs. Then he goes David Collins. I think that was a good pick. Then he went Christian Harris from Houston. Then he went Jeremiah Wusu-Koramoah, a really gassed up player last offseason by a lot of people. Not us, but a lot of people. Didn't do much. He just feels like the next Mac Wilson. You know what I'm saying? Do you know what I'm saying? Then he goes and gets Sauce Gardner at 9-10. Shoo-wee. That's spicy, bro. That's nice. That's nice. I love that. Trent McDuffie comes in next. Then goes Kwity Paye, Jeffrey Simmons, a couple of big boys coming in on your defensive line. Jackson, I don't want to click this because it will open up. Is this David Jackson? I need to double check. I'm not overly sure who this Jackson is here, to be completely honest with y'all. Deron Payne, great get after the guy didn't even know who he was in the 14th round. He's going to be on the Washington Commanders for a while. His tackle numbers were up or have stayed pretty consistent, and we've seen him pop on the sack numbers in the past and just this last season. And as a rookie, I think he had 9 or 10 too. So we know that Deron Payne can be a game-changing defensive line player. So to get him here, that was another one of those guys who I was targeting based on kind of how I went into the draft. Then you got Ajobo. I don't know his first name. Another defensive line player that has a complicated name. Like 2 of the guys on my team. This one's from Baltimore. Then we have Kyle Gordon. We have Jeff Okudah, who recently was acquired by Atlanta Falcons. I think it's Michael McFadden. Is it Matthew or Michael McFadden? McFadden, New York Giants. So whereas Joey took the other Giants linebacker in the second round to completely build his team around, my man over here got this guy who could very well just be around the field next to that guy just as much in the 18th round. So maybe that hopefully can kind of juxtapose for you why I was a little bit disconcerted with that pick earlier. Then we have Christian Thomas or C. Thomas. Again, who are all these Arizona defensive line players? Who are these? That's like the third one I don't know. Like, who are these people? Somebody help me. Devin Bush, 20th round. Ooh, got both Devins from back in the day. And then Kenneth Murray. So he got some high upside players with some good premium to their draft cost or whatever you want to call it. So what do y'all think about these teams? Did you have a favorite team? Do you have a favorite pick? I've kind of given you my thoughts and kind of giving you my critiques. Honestly, again, it's my biased opinion, my subjective opinion is my team is the best. I think I killed the draft. I'll do another video to show you all how our rookie drafts went after this one because we did it immediately following. But I thought I killed this one. I thought my rookie draft went pretty good too. And I'm looking forward to hopefully winning this league, because I like winning fantasy football leagues. That means a lot to me. There's another league. The league this one's based on. There's a handful of these guys that are in there. This is the second iteration. It's been around 3 seasons. I've won the championship in that league 2x out of 3 seasons. That's real. I'm trying to win these leagues. So I like my team. Good luck to all my competitors out there. I won't give you all draft grades because maybe some people will get sad. But like I said, some of y'all's teams I'm not too worried about. Some of y'all's teams got a little something going for them. But overall, nobody can fuck with us at the IDP Army when it really comes down to it. You know what I mean? It's probably just gonna come down to me and Mace. In the championships. No big deal. I don't know who you guys will choose to cheer for. Probably Mace, and that's totally fine. I'm totally okay with that. So, all right, let me know which team you like the most. We will be back soon, or I'll be back soon with the IDP Army podcast, show, channel, whatever. Be sure to subscribe, like, and we're going to be going over the rookie sister draft or secondary draft, the rookie IDP draft that was adjacent to this startup, which is also finished. So I'll be back soon, probably a couple of days. I'll put that up. Should be a lot faster. It's only 4 rounds. So same teams. And so again, these teams that we saw here, these aren't complete teams. So maybe I'll give the team grades after we put in the rookies. How's that sound for an idea, y'all? Let me know what you think in the comments below. I appreciate it, IDP Army. Remember, IDP and the P stands for positivity.